Hello, I'm Tom Nugent, and welcome to MemberMinds, where we explore retirement planning and other financial matters affecting our members. Mutual funds are a popular investment option for many individuals and are often considered a good way to invest in stocks and other financial assets. Yet many investors don't understand how mutual funds allow an individual to build his or her savings, or what the characteristics of those securities are when investing in them. With the availability of thousands of mutual funds issued by a multitude of fund companies, and the many factors involved in choosing one, having a solid understanding of mutual funds is important before investing. Today's guest is Chris Janeway. Chris is a registered representative for PlanMember, and he'll be explaining more about what mutual funds are and how they're structured, as well as their advantages, disadvantages, costs, and other considerations. Hi, Chris. Welcome to MemberMinds.
Hi, Tom. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Sure. Chris, could you describe what a mutual fund is?
Sure. So a mutual fund is a portfolio of maybe stocks, bonds, or other securities that I can own shares of that represent fractional ownership in that fund. And over the course of time, that fund can earn dividends, pay interest, and experience what are known as capital gains, or potential for, if there's loss of principal within there, capital losses.
And what are the advantages of mutual funds?
Well, sure. So one of the largest is diversification. So instead of, like I mentioned, owning that individual stock or bond, which may represent more of an eggs in one basket scenario, I can spread out over many stocks and bonds within those funds to get better diversification and thus reduce some of my risk.
Chris, how are mutual funds managed, and who picks the underlying investments?
Well, I think it's important to discern between a couple of different types of mutual funds. So in actively managed mutual funds, there are teams of analysts and fund managers who are picking the individual securities, stocks, bonds, or other securities that may go into that portfolio. And they're seeking to outperform whatever benchmark they may be compared to. Then there are indexed mutual funds, also known as passively managed. And they don't have that approach where they're seeking to outperform the benchmark. They're more of a conduit to that benchmark. They're not actively traded.
Mm-hmm. Chris, what are some of the other costs involved in owning a mutual fund?
Sure, well, there's a couple to be aware of, all of which can be found in a fund's prospectus, which is why it's important to read through that information. The first is a sales load. Some funds charge sales loads, and those can be spread out over the course of the fund, assessed up front, or even on the back end. Not all funds may charge those sales charges or sales loads. Some are also called no load. So again, it's important to find that information in a prospectus. Now, all funds have what are known as expense ratios. That's the operating cost of the mutual fund itself. So some of those expense ratios can be a little bit higher, tied to the operating costs of the fund. Maybe that's because of the actively managed nature of it. And some, like the index funds, may have a lower ongoing expense ratio because of the lower overhead.
Mm-hmm. Tell us, what are some of the other factors that an investor should consider in choosing a mutual fund?
Well, sure. Certainly, you want to make sure you can factor in risk, right? All mutual funds carry risk. These aren't fixed investments, and there is a potential for loss of principal. So you want to make sure that you work with your professional and clearly outline your goals and what type of risk you're willing to take. The other is make sure you understand the costs associated with those mutual funds.
Thanks, Chris, for being with us today. And thank you for joining us at MemberMinds. You can find more information about investing in mutual funds on your PlanMember Financial Professionals website. And remember, the future favors the prepared mind. See you next time.